a lot going on that doesn't feel like it's in the best interest of our students. And so about a year ago, I decided that I really wanted to run for the Board of Education. I feel like I have a very strong background in education. I have a strong background in management. I have a really good understanding of what makes a school system tick. I've worked in failing schools and been able to take those failing schools from being failing to having students who are successful and are achieving. And I think that's something that I can really help bring to Guilford County. I'm Crissy Pratt, and I'm running for the Board of Education in District 2 in Guilford County. And I have one son who is a sophomore at GTCC Greensboro in the middle college there, and another son who graduated from the IB program at High Point Central in 2020. And I first became interested in running for the board probably about 2 years ago, right when COVID started. I really started watching the board meetings at that point in time. And I have a background in education. I've been a lifelong educator. I was a teacher for about 10 years outside of Washington, D.C. I'll be completely honest. I have never paid that much attention to local elections at all. I'm not a politician. I've always voted in national elections, but I've never really paid attention to who's running for the Board of Education. And I really have learned over the past 2 years as I've started digging into what's happening in the Guilford County Board of Education, how important this vote really, really is. As a parent of students in the system, as an educator, it is critical for us to get people on the Board of Education who care about our students, who are passionate about them, who don't just have innovative ideas that they want to implement, but who actually know how to implement those ideas. And I think that's a big point of something that's happened in Guilford County. We've had some great innovative projects that have been started, but there's not the follow through on them. The implementation is just simply not there. And so I started watching these board meetings really initially just to see what was happening with COVID as they were shutting down the schools and trying to figure out what was happening. And very quickly, I started to learn, as a lot of parents learned during COVID, what was happening in our schools. And so I started watching these board meetings and really listening to what the board members were saying during the meetings. And I felt that there was a very strong lack of focus on the students themselves. It became evident to me very quickly that the meetings were very political. Votes were being cast straight down party lines without really looking at what's in the best interest of the kids. And so at that point, I really started digging into some of the things that were happening in Guilford County and looking at the data from the school system, and quite frankly was a little horrified by some of the things that I found. Our test scores are terrible, and they were terrible before COVID, and they've just gotten worse since then. We have an extremely low number of students who are passing the end of year exams and the end of grade exams. For 2021, only 8% of our students passed the Math 1 end of course exam, which is extremely, extremely low. I started also looking into things like the budget and how money was being spent. And although the county has received recognition for good accounting principles and following those, it's very, very hard when you dig into the budgets to see where that money is actually being spent. You can see that a lot of money is being transferred from one account into another. COVID relief funds are being spent on things like building a new teacher training center. Maintenance funds are being spent on things like building a new recording studio at Penn Griffin. Even when I was a teacher, I never watched the board meetings of the district that I was teaching in. And I have religiously watched every single one for the past 2 years. And I've gained so much insight into what the priorities of the board are. And the priorities, when you watch those meetings, are the money. How are we funding this particular thing? How can we move money from this fund to that fund to pay for this? And there simply isn't discussion of how can we help our students achieve what they need to achieve in the classroom. They're not talking about what programs do we need to have in place to help our students increase their reading scores and increase their math scores. They're not talking about how to make our schools safe. which is a huge priority. I've heard repeatedly over the past few months that we have many, many weapons in our schools, which is frightening as a parent. It's absolutely terrifying. We really do have a new vision for Guilford County schools. We want to see the schools improve and really see them become what they're capable of being. And we want to move in a new direction. We want to move towards student success and student achievement. So that's why we have a new vision and a new direction for Guilford County schools.